we were assuming that it would have been a normal expenditure. And at the point where we had to upgrade a phone for the candidate, it was April 2013 where her phone stopped working. It was the phone that we use primarily for all campaign proceedings. And we would not have been able to, she would not have been able to upgrade that phone at that moment. So we would, instead of choosing to purchase a new business landline, we decided to upgrade that phone and use the campaign debit card to do that. So we're asking just to reduce the penalties by the amount of $230.07, which was the charge of the phone and a protective case, the early device upgrade, and $39.20 for the activation fee. So everything else we agreed to.
Does the candidate, did you continue to use that phone after the election?
That phone, I no longer have that phone.
But did you use
that physical phone?
But I understand, but did you continue to use it after the election?
At some point, the phone broke, so I no longer used that phone after the election.
No,
The phone number.
The phone number, actually, that phone number I still have in a Google account.
I'm just still not clear what your response was. At some point, the phone broke, so you don't use it anymore. But did you continue to use it in the months after the election?
I used the phone. Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
The phone number about which we're talking, that was your personal phone number before the campaign started, and it continues to be your personal phone number now?
Yes.
Anything from the staff?
We would just note that under our regulations, durable goods that are of a personal nature, such as a personal cell phone, are not appropriate campaign expenditures.
I think that similar to the printer that we were using for most of the campaign, we started using Raquel's printer, and at some point, maybe in the summer, that broke as well, and we had to replace it. The phone at the moment where she needed it was crucial to what we were, and we're not contesting her personal calls or anything like that we agreed to needing to be penalized, but it was just the need for that equipment at that period. I think it could be merited.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And the next appearance is Hesham El Maligi. Good morning, sir. Whenever you're ready, if you could just state your name for the record.
Good morning. My name is Hisham Al-Maligi.
I'm Ashley Siegel, Associate Counsel for the Campaign Finance Board.
Ms. Loprest, do you have any instructions?
Mr. Maligi, you heard what the Ms. Siegel is going to give a brief recitation of the issues before the board. You'll be given an opportunity to speak. Board will go into executive session and then come back out and vote on the penalties and repayment matters. You're welcome to wait, or you can, or someone, or Ms. Siegel will call you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Gilhern, members of the board, Executive Director Loprest, Mr. El Maligi. My name is Ashley Siegel. I'm Associate Counsel for the Campaign Finance Board. Before the board this morning is the matter of the Hesham El Maligi campaign in the 2013 election for controller. The campaign did not participate in the program and received no public funds. CFB staff recommends that the board find the campaign committed the following 6 violations of the Act and board rules: failing to report a bank account used for campaign purposes, failing to provide merchant account statements, maintaining a 52.38% cash deposit variance, maintaining variances in reporting disbursements and receipts, failing to file and late filing of disclosure statements, and late response to the initial documentation request. The campaign contests all of these alleged violations. Mr. Maliki?
Thank you. Hi. So this campaign started on June 4th of 2013. I was attending the Libertarian Party convention for the first time ever, and I wanted to put my voice to object to the candidacy excuse me, of the lady who is known as the Manhattan Madam. So I put my name just to object, and they told me to give a word. I gave a word, sat down. Lo and behold, they voted for me to become their candidate for New York City Comptroller. My first text message to my wife was, holy blank, I am the Libertarian candidate for New York City Comptroller. So this wasn't something that was planned. This wasn't, I was attending just to get to know the business. I scrambled to do whatever I can. This campaign was a one-man show, even though that I had a treasurer on the paper, but the logistics of things and the size of the campaign, the minute size of the campaign, prevented any ability for the treasurer on the paper to do anything. We had one bank account, and the paper was submitted, the documents for this bank account with TD Bank. I had the debit card of that bank account. I designed the material like the campaign material. I asked the graphic designer to do my design, just use his hand to do it. He donated his work, and that was an in-kind campaign because he worked with me on the website, on the material, on everything else. So he actually was in-kind donation of the maximum amount of $49.50. And that amounts to almost half of my entire campaign fundraising. I didn't, as Ms. Siegel mentioned, I didn't get any penny from the public funds. I was working full-time at John Jay College, but not PSC. I was DC 37. So, I mean, there was no time to do anything. I was campaigning. I was designing material. I was writing speeches. I was trying to populate the website with a lot of things. Whatever little money I had, I deposited everything in that bank account, and everything was spent from that bank account. So if there was, I wonder what's the 53% still variance. I'm sure there is some mistake in the calculation because the campaign, as of now, doesn't have any money. And I think it's a consequence of my activity for the campaign partially led to me losing that job at John Jay College, and I was unemployed for a year, scrambling to get another job and deal with a lot of things. So the delay in the filing of the reports was partly due to that. But I think I missed 2 deadlines for the filing, but I did do the last and final filing, and every single expense and every single donation were included. So another thing, by chance, I had looked at Mr. Mindy Miranzik, yes, from Staten Island as well. I'm from Staten Island. He ran for city council at the same year. He received $91,000 and change in public funds, and the charge of failing to provide merchant account statement had no penalty for him while it's levied upon me. I used a service called fundelevator.com to get online donations. the total amount, grand total amount of these funds over 2 months, that was the life of this service, was $226. And I submitted all those papers as well among my papers that I submitted. So under $10,000 total funding and expenses, not a penny of public funds. I'm requesting leniency. The campaign doesn't have money. I don't have money. I started working again and I'm picking up. So with that, I would love to answer any questions if you have.
I have just a couple points I'd
Yes,
like to make
please.
just to clarify.
If you could speak up too, Ms. Siegel.
Absolutely. For the cash variance, which is alleged violation number 3, it was actually a reporting issue. So more cash was deposited than was reported by the campaign. So I just wanted to clarify that. And in terms of the merchant account statements, which is alleged violation number 2, the campaign provided screenshots of the webpage for their account, but didn't provide the actual merchant account statements, which is one of the sort of exact documents we need for that statement.
May I respond?
Please.
Sure. So to that last point, this service fund many screenshots from that campaign are the certificates of like the online, I don't know what they call it, but it's a scrambled thing. Like I can give you actually my login IDs and you can do whatever you want with it. I'm not hiding anything and I didn't get any more than what is there. To the earlier point, you mentioned that there were more, like I deposited more cash than was reported.
Right.
You mean in the, can you explain that more? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. So just in terms of what you disclosed to us for how the cash that you deposited more cash than you actually reported in your various disclosure statements.
Can you give me more detail, like how much, for example? Or
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think you had reported $420 and the deposit slips showed $640.
Okay. So there is a $300 that were deposited by myself by mistake, thinking that I can deposit from my own money as much as I can for my own campaign, not knowing at the time that I only have a limit, just like anyone else, of a $100 thing. So there is a $300 bank check that was issued. It is missing until now. I know I have it somewhere, but the bank owes me this $300. I think this might be the issue and it can take care of that. And we can, sorry.
We actually don't think that's the issue for the reporting variance. So this
300?
Sorry,
300?
We don't think that's the issue. The check that you're,
Isn't the number 220?
yes,
220.
$220 extra?
that you deposited but didn't report.
So it's as if I deposited $320 instead of only $100 cash.
So the check is actually, the check that you're referring to and that is in your response in Exhibit 2 is not at issue at all. It's actually just the cash deposits you put in and versus how much you actually reported to us that you put in.
Could it be that 300 that I put extra and I got a check, but I never cashed it?
We don't.
No, so, excuse me. Also, regardless of if you were funded that amount later, you did, in fact, give yourself a certain amount of cash. So even if that is the case, it's still a lack of reporting as it happened.
I think I did report it, but I also did speak with my liaison here in Campaign Finance Board at the time, and they told me, no, you can't have. So that's when I went to the bank and asked him to refund this money to me in a bank check. I just never actually did cash that check.
So I think that, I think that we were clear on this, and maybe if you have more questions for the staff, it seems that, I guess one of the questions is, did they report a $300 cash contribution from Mr.?
Well, overall, they reported $420, and however, they provided us deposit slips that said $640. So with $300
It's not,
it
the
wouldn't fit
number
the
doesn't, the
scenario
number is not
exactly.
$300, so,
Right, right.
no matter what. I mean, the difference is $220, so.
So it's even less of a problem than, I mean, again, it was a one-man show, full-time job. I mean, there was no attempt. I mean, the whole campaign is under 10,000, including half of in-kind. I mean, I just wanted to do the right thing. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I mean, we really appreciate your being here. It seems to us, a couple of members on the board here think that perhaps there's more that you can discuss and perhaps resolve, sort out, clarify with staff. Seems to have sparked a back and forth here on some of the facts. So I think that unless you have anything else to add, we'll provide you with an opportunity to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to resolve this. I'm not hiding anything.
I do need to know what was your wife's response to that text.
Well, I'm in trouble. I mean, many people didn't believe me when I first texted them this thing. But
I think before we let you go, could you raised an issue that related to the lateness having to do with an illness. You were not
Yes.
able to perform some of your responsibilities because of an illness, including in item 5, the staff reports, I think, a 68-day lateness
Right.
in a filing. Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
so basically, I don't know if it's a result of a lot of activity during the campaign, but I'm until today still under physical therapy treatment.
Okay.
I go once or twice a week, and
I don't necessarily mean that I need the details about the condition per se. I don't want to pry, but is it your statement that you were unable to attend to some of these obligations and responsibilities in communications?
it's basically the lateness. So, I mean, at one point I was fighting legally internally with my union being let go from my job, and then later on trying to scramble to get another job. So it took a lot of time out of my, I wasn't in a physical or mental state that enabled me to focus and try to, follow the times. But I did file
When were you let go from the job?
in May of 2014.
And the statements that are late were due October 2013 and December 2013.
Correct. Right after the campaign, that's when the problem started. I was faced with an internal investigation, and I had
In May of 14.
no. It started right after the campaign, so November, December 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Well, thank you. And is there anything else that you haven't said that you'd like to add at this time?
Despite everything, it was a good experience. I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to learn as much as I can. There was no attempt to, to do anything wrong. I hope you see this, and I hope that you give me leniency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next on the docket is Sadiq Y. Welcome.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
So, Mr. Wife, if you and your representative can state your name for the record. What will happen is the staff attorney will give a brief recitation of the issues before the board today. Then you'll be given an opportunity to present whatever facts you want. The board will vote to go into executive session and discuss the penalty matters before it, and then come out and vote on those penalty matters. So you are welcome to wait till the board votes, or if you need to leave, our staff attorney will call you after the board meeting with the board's results.
Okay.
Good
Wonderful.
morning. My name is Whitney Altido. I was the treasurer.
I'm Siddiq Y, the first immigrant to run for public office citywide in the city of New York in 2013.
Welcome, sir.
Mark Griffin, Associate Counsel with the New York City Campaign Finance Board.
Kevin Ramnarain, CFB Auditor.
Good morning, Chair Gilhern, members of the board, Executive Director Loprest, and Mr. Wine, Mr. Altidore. My name is Mark Griffin, CFB Associate Counsel. Assisting me is CFB Auditor Kevin Ramnarain. Before the board is the matter of the Siddiq Y campaign in the 2013 election for public advocate. Mr. Y was a participant in New York City Campaign Finance Program. The campaign did not qualify for public funds. The board has received and reviewed the campaign's response to the enforcement notice. The matters before the board consist of 7 violations. Staff recommends a penalty for failing to provide merchant account statements. Staff recommends a penalty for accepting over-the-limit contributions. Staff recommends a penalty for accepting contributions from corporations or limited liability corporations. Staff recommends a finding of violation with no associated penalty for failing to demonstrate compliance with intermediary reporting and documentation requirements. Staff recommends a penalty for failing to document loans. Staff recommends a penalty for converting campaign funds to a personal use. Staff recommends a finding of violation with no associated penalty for failing to demonstrate that spending was in furtherance of the campaign. The campaign contests the first 3 violations and the 6th violation.
Do you have a copy of the penalty violations that you've reviewed?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. I think before I go to my treasurer, I think the staff never participated in the campaign. They were never a part of it. So I'll leave it to my to my treasurer. But one thing that I want to make clear to this board is that when you're a candidate running for office, you pull people together, and particularly as an immigrant who does not have any money, and the process that we engaged in, I'm pretty confident we complied with all of the charges that they're saying. So we're here to kind of lay our facts and let the board look at them and make a determination. So I'll leave it to Fritz. Thank you.
As for the violation with respect to the campaign receiving funds over the limit, one of which was for an invoice that we received from our first campaign manager for $16,000. He was with us for a few weeks, and obviously he didn't like what he was seeing, and so he left. At the most, I could say he worked for 10 hours. There was no way somebody would bill us $16,000 for working for so many hours. So I contacted the liaison, and we reported that to her, said that we received an invoice, which we're definitely contesting. What should I do with it? She said, book it anyway. I believe after that, Mr. Omar agreed that we don't have to pay him, but there was nothing written with respect to that. That was for $16,000. That was the bulk of the violation. And it wasn't for goods. The invoice was for services. I don't think we would have even have to report service as a donation. Therefore, we are asking that the violation with that respect to the
Thank you.
$16,000.
I think the staff, though, pointed out that there was no provision to them of any documentation to support this explanation about the dispute. Is that right, staff?
Yes, that is correct.
So was there anything that you could have provided that showed the back and forth regarding the dispute?
What happened with Omar, nobody knows where Omar is, and according to Mr. White, Omar might be out of the country. I sent a few emails for him to send a response acknowledging that he agreed to no payment. I never received anything. No.
Staff, do you
I
have
missed
those
that one.
emails?
No.
No,
Are those something that you could provide?
I could point a copy and forward it the email that I sent.
So I
Quick
just wanna make sure-
question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would services have to be reported as donation even if that was an invoice for service? Even if he had agreed the services was for free, would that be equate to donation, campaign donation?
Yeah.
Well, you're
Well, the-
asking a few different questions there. I mean, I think first of all, there was so just first of all, was there an agreement to hire O&B for $16,000?
For 16,000?
Yes.
Mr. White, you wanna? Was there an agreement
No,
for Mr.
there
White
was
to work
no
for
agreement.
16,000?
This gentleman was with the campaign for less than a couple of weeks.
I understand that, but was there initially an agreement
We
to
didn't
hire
have,
O&B?
we prepared an agreement. He never signed that agreement and we never executed the agreement.
Okay, did you provide that agreement to the campaign staff,
We do.
campaign finance board staff?
We'll look for it and forward it to Mr. Griffin then.
So he billed you for $16,000.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Correct. And do you have any record of terminating that agreement?
Well, he
We never
he
signed
left.
it.
He didn't want to be part of the campaign anymore.
Okay.
So
So
I'm
the-
sorry, do the emails reflect that you were terminating the agreement, the emails that you mentioned a moment ago?
no, he didn't email anything terminating any agreement. The only thing I received in an email was an invoice for 16,000.
Go ahead, Mr. Chang, I'm sorry.
So was there any email communication of any sort or anything in writing which would reflect the fact that he was no longer working for the campaign? Forget about whether there was an agreement or not, that would reflect the fact that he was attempting to bill for only a couple weeks' services.
The only thing I recall having was the invoice in which I booked, and there was another gentleman that took over as a campaign manager. I don't remember his name, but he signed up with the CFB as the replacement for Mr. Omar.
The question is really, if you have March 10th liability, right, so March 10th invoice,
Mhm.
does it mark, I'm assuming this is the day of the invoice, March 10th?
This is the date I
March
believe they reported it,
Okay.
incurring it on March 10th.
Okay. So
2013.
is there just a record of anyone from your campaign emailing the O&B and rejecting the invoice?
Mr. Hmm?
No, but I mean the letter that Martin had sent to him.
I believe there was a letter sent to him.
Okay, do you have a copy of that?
We'll look for it.
Second, there's a form called a campaign vendor dispute form. That do you know if were you provided with that form?
Actually, it wasn't until the other day I was going through the response from Mr. Mark that I noticed. He said there's an attachment for that form, which actually I didn't know. I completed it again. I re-forwarded to the only email I know for Mr. Omar and asked him if he wouldn't mind executing that one and send it to me. Then again, I have not heard from him.
But do you have a record of sending that to him? Is that what you just said?
Yeah. That was the other day, definitely.
Just to clarify, the vendor form was Exhibit 1 of the original enforcement notice, which was provided to the campaign during summer 2015. Mr. Altador requested it on Tuesday, I believe, and I emailed him a copy. Because the enforcement notice is the first exhibit to the board packet, which the final recommendation to the board, staff's final recommendation to the board, which was forwarded to the campaign as well, and we did not attach the exhibits from the original enforcement notice in that to avoid.
Actually, I must admit, I kind of missed this issue with Omar. I thought the over the contribution had to do with the loan from Lowen until the other day. That's probably why I never responded to it. Now attached the dispute vendor form. I definitely missed on that one.
But you did get the penalty notice in July of 2015.
Yes, I did. I thought the over the contribution limit has to do with the loan that Mr. Y received from Lowen.
No, I
didn't
understand
think
that.
it had to do with Mr. Omar. I didn't think that would be part of the penalty at all, since
He didn't provide any services to the campaign other than that, so.
Okay, well, can we move on to the loan, question of the loan?
Mr. Y, you want to talk about the loan?
Yeah. In the campaign, I didn't receive any money from, I didn't have any public matching fund, so I had to go to family and friends. And that's a friend of mine loaned the campaign $10,000. And I'm even now in the process of, since then, I'm in the process of paying me back with some kind of arrangement with the party.
But you were aware that once you've been a candidate before, and so if you're aware that, a loan, if it's not repaid, becomes a contribution.
Well, the friend took the fund
I'm asking you if you're aware that the loan becomes a contribution if it's not repaid by the election.
I thought only when the party says it's a contribution, but she wanted me to pay it back, and I've made arrangement with her, to start paying the money back since I couldn't raise any. The campaign was done, nobody was going to give me money, so I took personal responsibility because I was a candidate. So I made arrangements, and I'm paying her little by little based on an arrangement that we did. And that's a lot of money for somebody who no longer has a campaign. And once the campaign is finished, everybody goes home.
You're very well aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to say about the other issues?
One of the issues that has to do with the failing to provide the merchant account. The campaign signed up with Democracy Engine to facilitate online payment. And then when we sign up with them, they says we would need a merchant account, which they would create for us, and in which we give them the permission to create it. I don't think that account was ever activated because all of the funds that went to the campaign account came directly from Democracy Engine. And as such, we never really have any statement really to provide with. That's as far as my knowledge goes.
So you reported $309 in expenditures, but what you're saying now, just so I'm clear, is that you never actually that you never actually use the services and
for Democracy Engine?
Yes.
Yeah. We pay Democracy Engine, but not through the money didn't go through any other third-party merchant account. At first, they told us we would need a merchant account in order to facilitate this, which we gave them permission to create on our behalf. And it turns out that every funds that come to the bank account came directly from them, not through a merchant account that I know of.
So how did you pay them that $309?
Whenever somebody make a contribution, they take the little fees and forward the rest to us.
You reported the campaign reported $309.84 in expenditures to Democracy Engine. So where did that money come from?
For example, if somebody make a donation of 100 and Democracy Engine deposited 90, the way I booked it, I book 100 as the full contributions. $10 goes to Democracy Engine as expense.
But you don't have any statements at all from Democracy Engine to demonstrate that amount. I mean, when to show that how you arrived at that $309. So I mean, you got
usually we've seen all of these. We have a printout of everybody who donates the money, and then obviously after every 2 or 3 days, we know how much they deposited, and Democracy Engine would make a deposit to the bank account. Obviously, there's an offsetting for the fees on it.
Do we have those statements? No.
This is I have I always went and submitted the donation slip that people goes online and fill it out. That we've submitted to the campaign every reporting.
It's not the same as the statements,
Yeah,
the
okay.
account statements.
I mean, we presume that Democracy Engine would provide you a statement that shows the incoming contribution and then the net amount submitted to the campaign after deducting for fees.
We talked to them, we reconciled, but I've never gotten any response, any statements from them. Whenever I deposit, I would say, okay, this is how many deposits we've seen. Okay, this is how much you forwarded. They would explain to us their fees, but I've not gotten any statement from them.
This is an online service?
Online service.
And have you ever gone to the account? I'm sure there's an account link that lets you look at your transaction record. That would be typically required. You know.
I didn't know of that.
Do you have anything to say about any of the other recommended?
There was another violation with respect to accepting contribution from corporation or liabilities. There was an individual who gave this thing. Obviously, he gave it using a company's check. We have this form that he filled out. Mr. White, I believe, attempted to reach out to him so that we could return the payment and he could give a personal check, but that never happened.
That's the contribution from Mr. Sampson.
Yes.
Okay.
And the last violation that I believe we're disputing had to do with using campaign fund for personal use. I will turn that over to Mr. White to discuss.
You know, that I never use after the campaign, we had a phone, but once the campaign was over, we shut it down. At the same time, there were people who had my phone number, my personal cell number. So since I was hoping that at the end of the process, I could continue to talk to people. We asked Campaign Finance Board, I said, well, with all these debts that I have, I still need to figure out a way to pay this money back. So my phone, I couldn't use my work phone, so I had to keep the phone. And the money that was even there was not enough. But so the public, my friends that wanted to get in touch with me could not use my other phone. So that was the phone. And the money was not even up to anything. So I still have the phone and I'm paying for it myself, even though but it was purposely put there so that people could get in touch with me and I could also get in touch with them to help me, liquidate whatever debts I would be having. That was the purpose.
And so the phone that the payments are talking about, that was a phone that you had before the campaign too? Also a phone number and a phone that you used?
I believe it's a phone we took for the campaign.
The campaign.
It was specific.
Yes.
You purchased that phone for the campaign?
Yes.
And yet but you still continue to use that phone?
Yes,
Okay.
because, yeah.
I'm sorry, do you have a separate personal phone?
Yes, I do.
It's different from the phone that's reflected
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Different phone number.
Different phone number. I couldn't give
So this phone number was solely dedicated to the
to
campaign.
the campaign, yes.
And you obtained it after the campaign started.
We purchased it during the campaign as a phone that the public could use and reach out to me. So that's the phone that is that we're talking about.
A couple of points, actually, to the last. Going back to the corporate violation involving Americold, Exhibit 5, the second page of Exhibit 5 actually contains the contribution, and it is a check from Americold, not from the individual Mr. Sampson. Kevin Sampson. So any repayment would have to be to Americol to refund the corporate contribution, not to Mr. Sampson. And I believe their contact information is actually on top of the check, which is included as the second page of Exhibit 5. Going back to the last item, converting campaign funds to personal use, just to be clear about precisely what money we're talking about. We're talking about $488.87 for payments to T-Mobile for phone service. We're not talking about an actual physical phone. And we're talking about payments for calls made between January 2014 through October 2014. The primary election was in September 2013. These phone calls are considered conversion because they are so long well after the election and not considered part of the nominal winding up of the campaign or required to address the audit process.
Mr. Way?
Mr. Griffin, I don't know if you ever ran for office, but when you run for office, the people that you get in touch with, you get in contact with, who volunteer their services to be with you, that's family that you have created. And I knew from the process there are liabilities that I'm going to be facing. And I cannot, under any normal circumstances, continue to use my personal funds, which I didn't have. So the phone was their only means of getting in touch with me. That was not for personal use. So even up to now that there is no money in the funds, I still continue to maintain that phone number because I don't know what I'm going to be doing in the future. So I am very, very conscious and concerned about the question of integrity because that's how I've led my life all along. $314, I would not use $314 of the public funds to personal use. That is not how I operate, and that is not how we ran our campaign. If you look at all of these submissions, despite the fact that we did not have public financing support, my treasurer and the team complied with the filing. And even after the process, the campaign was closed, they're still complying with CFB. So I think we have demonstrated good faith. And then we have demonstrated integrity, and we've demonstrated to this campaign finance board that we obey the law and we work within the law. However, if there were things that people send us checks that it's beyond the limit and we try to find them, we can't find them anymore, I don't think that is grounds to penalize me because I couldn't find them. We didn't use the money. So I just want the record to reflect that. We have demonstrated above board with full compliance to the rules and regulations that this board has put in place, even when we didn't get any money from them.
We do not take any issue with any of that, sir. We are not impugning your integrity at all. I don't think that the staff is. I don't think that this series of violations are intended to impugn your integrity. I think that both as it relates to your dealings with the staff and your very appreciated testimony today, we do not dispute your good faith efforts. And these are in the nature of rules and regulations that relate to the submission of proper documentation because these are tax dollars that we're talking about, sir. So there is a copious amount of accountability because these are tax dollars and we are the guardians of that. That's what this is about. And so if it's any comfort to you, we appreciate your being here. We appreciate your participation. We are doing our job. The staff is doing its job, but do not intend to or have any view that you have acted in anything other than good faith.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else that either of you gentlemen would like to add at this point?
I just want to state this because I come from an immigrant background and I'm part of the city. I ran for office to support the city, to contribute to the city. I'm doing that now, even not as a candidate. But I really think it is important, since maybe I may never have the opportunity to do this again, that there really needs to be looked at from the Campaign Finance Board perspective, the role of people who come from other parts of the world, who are not part of the system, that also have made valuable contributions. Perhaps with your leadership and support, there needs to be some serious thinking about reforming campaign finance laws. Because those of us who come from somewhere, we don't have nobody in government, we don't have no grandfather, we don't have any of these people, but we are still feeling that the system does not work for us. So I would urge this board to seriously consider people who come, who are making valuable contributions to the city, that we are also part of the city. And that I'm not saying Mr. Griffin is trying to impugn my character, that would be far from it. But as an advocate who was running for public advocate, if I can advocate for myself, then who else will? I had no business running for office. But I would just like to convey to this board that there really needs some serious rethinking as to how people who come from somewhere want to contribute to this society. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And I think for the record, and my colleagues on the board may have other follow-up, the Campaign Finance Board indeed provides information in a wide variety of languages and provides and assigns liaisons to candidates throughout the process. And so I think that there is a lot of constituent service that the staff and board provide.
Thank you very much and have a nice day.
I mean, and I would just to add, I mean, that is, the small dollar matching funds program is intended to assist people who would otherwise not be able to run for office to be able to support and run for office. And if you look at our 2013 post-election report, you'll see that there is a large number of, in every election, it goes up every election, of first-time donors, including people who are from other countries, to be participating in the process as contributors, as candidates. And so, I mean, that is one of the major purposes of having the small dollar matching funds program, is to encourage participation by all sorts of New Yorkers.
Lastly, we do very much appreciate and note input from candidates like you, sir. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, members of the staff.
Thank you.
We done?
Yes, sir. Unless you have something else.
No. I just want to thank you for the work you do.
Pleasure.
And we appreciate that's public service. And I just
Staff
wanna
does
thank
a
you.
very fine
Thank you
job.
very
Thank you.
Yeah.
And as it relates to the board, is there a motion to go into executive session
So
to
moved.
discuss these and other pending matters?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We go into executive session.